What's up, guys? Chris here to talk about some MMA going down this weekend. Got predictions for UFC on versus 3, Strikeforce Columbus. Maybe quick thoughts on Bellator 35. Gang MMA going down this weekend, though. Ton of fights. And pretty much all, if you got basic cable, well, Showtime isn't basic, but if you got Showtime basic cable, you are definitely in for a treat. Gang of fights. Like I said, really looking forward to this weekend/weekend as an MMA fan. Start off real quick with UFC on versus 3, which is going down on Thursday. The first two UFC on versus haven't been the best events, but this one looks pretty good on paper. It looks alright. We'll see. But 3 fights, can't really complain. First fight, you got Joe Stevenson takes on Danny Castillo. Danny Castillo making his UFC debut, fighting out of Team Alpha Male, my city, Sacramento, taking on Joe Daddy. Joe Daddy's coming off that loss to Mac Danzer, where he got KO'd in the first. I think Joe Stevenson is probably a better, well-rounded fighter than Danny Castillo. I like Castillo. Dude's a funny guy. He's pretty entertaining. But I would like to see Danny Castillo win this fight. Especially, he's got these blogs. He just posted leading up to this fight. Pretty entertaining cat. But I'm going to favor Joe Stevenson to win this one by decision. But you never know, man. Maybe Danny could pull this one out. Next up, you got former WEC bantamweight champion Brian Bowles taking on Demasio Page. Rematch. These guys fought before in the WEC. Brian Bowles won by guillotine. Bowles hasn't fought since losing his title to Dominic Cruz. Page lost his last fight to Demetrius Johnson, one I thought he would win, but he didn't. Although Bowles has been out for a while with hand injuries since broke his hand in that Cruz fight, and then he was supposed to fight again, but he hurt his hand again. Still going to favor him. Already won this fight once. Demasio really didn't look all that good against Demetrius Johnson. I think Bowles is ready to get back there and get back on a title run, or just get it back in there and do some damage and show the I don't want to say potential because he was the champion, but show the skills that had him holding down that WEC 135-pound title for the moment, or the brief moment that he did. So I'll go with Brian Bowles to win this fight. Bye. Let's go with another guillotine. Next up, you got Alessio Sakara taking on Chris Weidman. Sakara hasn't fought since the last UFC on versus card where he stopped Irvin on that crazy punch to the eye. Weidman making his UFC debut, undefeated 4-0. Heard he's a wrestler. I'm going to favor Sakara just because Weidman's a late replacement and I'm not very familiar with him, so I'll go with Sakara by TKO. CB Dalloway, Mark Munoz. Not a fan of CB Dalloway. Don't know how many people who are. Kind of interesting. CB Dalloway, one of his main best friends and training partners is Darren Simpson, the guy that Mark Munoz beat in his last fight. I'll go with Munoz here. Better wrestler, more powerful striker. Neither of these guys have the best cardio, but Munoz, I think, trains with the better team, and I think he's just a better fighter. I've just never been too impressed with CB Dalloway, so whether I like the guy or not, so I'm going to go with Mark Munoz to win this fight by decision. Main event, Martin Kampmann taking on Diego Sanchez. Diego, the Dream Sanchez, I guess that's the new nickname he's going by, dropped the Nightmare moniker. Good fight on paper, man. Really competitive. Hard to predict this one in all honesty. Martin's coming off that close loss to Jake Shields. A lot of people thought he won, but he lost the decision. Diego coming off the win over Paulo Thiago. Really impressive performance in his bounce back up to welterweight, where this fight will be held, obviously. Diego, better wrestler. Oh, and incidentally enough, Martin Kampmann, actually, did he beat or lose to Paulo Thiago? He fought Paulo Thiago, and I'm thinking that he beat him. Anyways, Diego, the better wrestler, maybe the better cardio, probably the better grappler, although Martin Kampmann's a pretty damn good grappler as well. Kampmann definitely better on the feet. Now, I think for Diego to have any success in this fight, he needs to get to the ground. Will he be able to do so? I'll say yeah. Martin Kampmann just got some good takedown defense. Trained out of Extreme Couture, that's going to happen, Trained with a lot of solid stud wrestlers there like Ray Maynard, Tyson Griffin, and Jay Haran, to name a few. Standing, Martin's much better than Diego, but Martin isn't really a one-hitter quitter KO power. Diego's showed a pretty solid shit in the past. Look at the ass woman he took from BJ Penn, right? But, man, this is a close fight. I favor Martin on the feet, favor Diego on the ground. Hard for me to say who's going to dictate the fight and where it takes place for the majority of it. It's funny, I talked about this fight yesterday on the Science of My Trader Show. I believe I picked Martin Kampmann. I'll go with Campman by decision, but it's a close fight. It could go either way. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a split decision. Think it will go to all 3 rounds, all 15 minutes, but I'm going to favor Martin Campman by decision. Next up, Strikeforce Columbus. Going down this Saturday night, airing on Showtime. 4 fights to talk about. First up, we got Billy Evangelist taking on George Masvidal. Good, it should be a good fight. On paper, it is. Should be a good lightweight scrap to start off the night. Masvidal, he actually looked all right in his last fight against Paul Daly at welterweight. Hopefully cutting the weight back down to lightweight won't affect him. If it doesn't, I favor him. Evangelist is all right, but I just think Masvidal's a better fighter. I think he's more talented, more powerful, and more proven. So I'll go with George Masvidal to win this fight by TKO. Next up, Tim Kennedy taking on Melvin Manoof. Was originally scheduled to be Tim Kennedy versus Luke Rockhold, which would have been a really intriguing bout. But unfortunately, Rockhold got hurt, and Manoof coming in on late notice. Melvin, as we know, last year got just destroyed. Actually, he's winning, but got KO'd by Robbie Lawler. Kennedy's coming off that 5-round decision loss, title loss to Jacare Souza. I'll go with Kennedy here. He has more ways to win, meaning if he gets this fight to the ground, he pretty much should win it. I think he'll play it safe. He's been saying he wants to stand and trade with Melvin Manoff. I don't believe it unless I see it. He don't want to do that unless he wants to lose. Melvin's only chance to win this fight is on the feet early. Don't see it happening. I think Tim's going to take him down to the ground and choke him out and win by submission. Next up, Strikeforce 135-pound women's champion Marloes Coenen taking on Liz Carmouche. Was originally supposed to be Marloes against Miesha Tate. Unfortunately, Miesha hurt her knee last week. She had to pull out of the bout. Very unfortunate. Look forward to that bout. Plus, I was looking forward to watching Miesha Tate fight. She's a pretty hot chick. Gotta admit it, at least in my opinion. Don't know much about Liz Carmouche. Heard about her yesterday on the radio show from some of my fellow panelists. Heard she's a pretty solid fighter. She's undefeated, but she's only been fighting for like a year or two. Not that long. Taking the fight on last minute notice. I think it stacks up against her big time. I got to favor Coenen. She's a very well-rounded fighter. She's the champ. She's more prepared, more experienced, and she's the champ. She beat Sarah Kaufman, so I'll go with Marloes Coenen to win this fight by submission armbar. The main event of the night, Strikeforce lightweight champion Rafael Feijão Cavalcante defending his title against Dan Henderson. Cavalcante, of course, won the title in his last fight over King Mo Muhammad Lawal. It's a good fight. Dan Henderson knocked out Babalu in his last fight in Strikeforce as well in the first round. Hendo, superior wrestler. Cavalcante, superior jiu-jitsu. Hendo, I think, has got more power, though Cavalcante showed in the Mousasi fight that he's got some power in his hands as well as in the Antoine Britt fight, where he knocked out Britt in the first round as well. It's a good fight, man. Really competitive. On the feet, it could go either way. I think Cavalcante's striking is a little bit more well-rounded. Dan's got that big right hand. We know he loves to throw it down. If Dan decides to go to his wrestling, which he rarely does, he could probably take Cavalcante down, beat him up there on the ground, but I don't know how much. Cavalcante's got a pretty solid guard from what I've seen of it. I know Hendo's 40. He hasn't really shown too many effects of his age, except for maybe in the Jake Shields bout, but that might have been cutting down to middleweight, or maybe just Jake Shields hustled him in that fight. But either way, even though Hendo's always got a chance to win a fight, one of the better fighters in the history of MMA has always got that power in that right hand to end a fight at any moment. Ask Michael Bisping. I'm going to favor Feijão to win this fight. I think it'll probably go the distance. I think as the fight wears on, not that Cavalcante's always shown the best cardio in the past, but I think he'll be able to outlast Dan Henderson. So don't think he's going to stop Dan. If anyone stops anyone in this fight, I think it'll be Hendo knocking out Cavalcante, but I think it's going to go to a decision, and I'm going to favor Feijão to retain his title. Lastly, Bellator 35 debuting on their new home, MTV2, on Saturday before the Strikeforce. This card is anchored by the opening round of the welterweight tournament. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the fact that we're actually going to see the fights live, no tape delay. A lot of the times I would either get the fights live, I would have to wait to watch them till at midnight because the San Francisco Giants baseball games, which I have no interest in. So glad that we're going to be able to see all of their events live this season. All I'm going to say is I'm going to go with all the favorites in this opening round tournament. I'm going to go with Dan Hornbuckle over Dan Weidman. Going to go with Lyman Good over Chris Lozano. Going to go with Jay Heron over Anthony Lapsley. And Jim Wallhead, Rick Hahn is a bit of a toss-up. but I will favor Rick Hahn over Judo Jim Wallhead. As for who I think is going to ultimately win the tournament, I think Jay Hieron is the favorite. He's been out of the ring for a while, but I think he's got an easy, somewhat relatively easy first round matchup, and after that, shake off the ring rust, and I think he should be able to take out most of the guys moving forward using his superior wrestling. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot to talk about, but like I said, a lot of fights to look forward to. Want to hear which event you guys are looking forward to the most? Which fights you're looking forward to the most? Are you guys looking forward to watching Bellator this new season? Like I said, I am. And yeah, just want to hear predictions and anything else you guys got to say about all these fights and events coming up. Once again, I did talk about these fights as well as recap UFC 127 on yesterday's Science of Violence radio show. If you didn't get a chance to check it out live, you can always go back and check it on demand or podcast. I will put a link in the information part of the video as usual, as well as a link to my Twitter. That's pretty much it for now. I'm maybe back on Sunday to talk about all these fights afterwards. But until then, guys, I'm out.